This is our 3:30 live show. We do these every day at 3:30. Every day is kind of something new, so if you want to tune in from home, we have live streams there. Throughout this whole process, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask them. People online can type it in the chat, and we will try and answer those as best we can. So this is our snake feeding. We feed our snakes here once every 2 weeks. They really don't need food that often. A lot of snakes, including our ball python, pretty regularly won't take, and that's fine. They know when they need to eat and when they don't. Some common things people notice about our snakes here are that they have newspapers down when we're feeding them. Their hides are right behind you there. But we put these newspapers down because our mice and rats here, we soak them in water because we buy them frozen. So we want them to appear lifelike, although we are not feeding live mice. So we put them in the microwave just before they come out, make them a little bit warm. That's another question we get is, why don't we feed live? So imagine you being a little mouse running around in the tank. You would quickly figure out that you cannot escape from this tank. So your next option is going to be to fight back, and rat and mice bites can be pretty harmful to a snake, so we don't want to put them in danger in any way. But we're going to be starting off with our Hognose Snake today. This is our smallest snake in the Science Center. They are native to Minnesota, and since he is our smallest snake, he's going to be getting our smallest mouse. If you are squeamish, this is a bowl of dead rats and mice. But he's going to be getting, if you guys want to let the camera see, there we go. Want to move just a little bit to that side so that the camera can, yep, there you go. So,
can you guys kneel down? Can you kneel down?
Okay.
Come here, sit down a little bit.
So, he's going to be getting our smallest mouse. Now, this is, I'm trying to get him back on this paper. Another function of the newspaper is because since the mice are wet, we don't want them picking up any of the bedding and eating that at the same time. So I'll try to get him back on the paper as best I can. You'll see he's a little slow. I think he's got it there. Oh. Once he makes his way around to either the back or the front, he'll figure out how to eat that, but he's found it, so.
And that snake in particular oftentimes has troubles. It has some vision issues that make actually striking at the food difficult for him. So you'll see him feeling around for it a little bit more than most of the rest of them do too.
That's a baby mouse.
Alright, and then, well, he works his way around to the head of the mouse. We'll move on to Sophie here. If you guys want to let the cart through. Alright. Thank you very much. This is Sophie. She is our corn snake, our second smallest snake. So, she's a pretty popular one here. Corn snakes are a very popular pet snake, especially since they'll be out and active with you during the day. And she's one that'll commonly strike. She just went through his shed, so.
Oh!
And you'll see her kind of wrapping around her prey item there. And a lot of people seem to think that is to cut off their airways. Well, it also does that effectively. It also works to cut off their blood flow, which is a much faster way of killing their prey. Obviously, this one is already dead, but she's going to make sure for a couple minutes here that that mouse is for sure dead before she starts actually eating it. And you'll notice they don't chew their food. A lot of snakes barely chew their food. The hognose might a little bit, but otherwise they use the tiny little teeth and all their muscles in their mouth to move it back. And then we'll move on to Jeannie.
Let's do Rusty first.
Oh, okay.
Just for movement's sake
Never
here.
mind. We'll move to Rusty. All right. Alright, this is Rusty.
I'm glad we stayed.
And we do have two red tails here, but Rusty is male, so he is smaller. Basically, the rule with that is the larger the female, the more eggs it can carry, so naturally the females tend to be larger. Rusty is one that will very, very commonly strike, so I wouldn't be surprised if she did. I'm going to try and get him on the newspaper if I can, but he's waiting patiently for me to bring it to him. So,
I know, I can see it in your eyes.
he's also making sure that mouse is very dead before he starts to eat it, so he'll sit like that for a couple minutes.
He's working it.
And then we'll move on to Jeannie.
Jeannie's next.
Girls, look at this one.
Yeah.
And if you want to look at Sophie, she's getting there with her. It's almost all clean.
Yeah.
Alright,
Now, do they hear Mom?
this is going to be Jeannie. Jeannie's our ball python. Ball pythons are a very common pet snake also, although they're kind of, I don't want to say notorious for not really striking at their food, especially this one. Jeannie is getting up there, I'm assuming 28, 29. So she's not one that will commonly strike at her food, as you can see. She kind of moves away from it, hence the name ball python. She's kind of in a ball here. But she obviously doesn't want to take it right now, and that's very common for her. We'll leave it there for her, and if she takes it in the night, great. If she doesn't, that's just fine. I think these guys have been reported to go like up to a year without eating, and they're fine. She'll take in the night though, pretty commonly. And then we will move on to our largest snake, Artemis.
I think that's Bernie's python.
So, Artemis, do you guys want to make your camera?
Yep.
So, Artemis is also a red-tailed boa. Again, like I said, females are larger, so she is female. And she's going to be getting our largest rat today. And her tank is one that's kind of not ideal for feeding, but again, especially since she's in a shed right now, she's not going to be out taking. As you can see, she's also coiling away from it, which is common for her too. So again, we'll leave it there for her. She takes in the night, great. If not, it's common for them to not eat while they're shedding. So
Hard job shedding.
almost look a blue color. They're very kind of glossed over when they're shedding, which makes them a little bit more prone to, getting frustrated when they're being handled during shedding. That's why we put up signs so that people don't handle them while they're shedding, because they're effectively kind of blind while they're shedding. And that is going to be all. Does anyone have any questions? This is Artemis's shed, yes. This is from a previous shed. And if you want to touch that, we might have it up on the touch table eventually, but yeah.
Turn around and check on Rusty here.
Are you gonna
Yeah.
feed
Come here, girl.
Probably about to get started.
He's almost around to the head.
What's really fun with Rusty is you can really see how they use their lower jaw to kind of move that rat down further into their mouth. Their jaw isn't fused in the middle, the lower part, so they can move either side of their jaw independently. And you'll see them using either side to work that rat down once he actually starts swallowing it. Other cool part of a snake you don't often get to see is the skin that's underneath the scales. And so when they are stretched out when they're eating, it's a rare opportunity to see that skin underneath. You can see he's not quite all the way around to the head yet, so he's kind of inching his way further and further up towards the head.
Okay.
And because they need to swallow their food whole, they basically got one orientation they can do it at. Every once in a while you'll see them do it back end first, but usually it's pretty much always head first. So sometimes it takes them a little while to get there. The other thing, if you sit here and watch him for a while, once he actually starts swallowing it, one of the things you might see is a little tube pop up out of his mouth periodically. And so when they're swallowing these big food items, obviously their mouth is full, but they still need to breathe. And so you'll see their trachea actually can come up into their mouth, and they'll actually poke their trachea out the side of their mouth. So you'll see that every once in a while.
That's interesting.
And yeah, so none of these snakes will be coming out for the rest of the day today. After they've eaten, a lot of times if there's that scent of food in the air, they're a little more apt to be a little bit more aggressive. But also for the ones that actually do eat, getting handled too much or too vigorously too soon after eating can upset their stomachs and make them vomit. And vomiting is a much more stressful process for a snake than it is for a human, because their stomach makes up, depending on the species of snake, anywhere from about a quarter to about a third to 40% of their body length is just stomach. So getting like a big convulsion like you need to actually vomit is a big deal for a snake. Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, but Sophie's probably already done. Sally did over there.
Twist and turn.
He's really struggling to get to the top.
No, we couldn't get that in there. We'll figure it out soon.
Can't figure out he's laying on the one end of it, so he can't. Trying to pick himself up by his own shoes.
Yeah.
Almost there, though. And for most of them, as far as when this comes out the other end, usually a week or so-ish. Most of them poop before the next feeding. With Rusty, it's pretty clockwork, like maybe 12-ish days after a feeding he poops. The smaller ones, it tends to be a little quicker.
How old is this one?
So question one was, what does it look like? So snake poop is kind of interesting. Like, there's a main section of it that looks pretty similar to just any other poop. It tends to be, like, if you really break into it, the big thing that comes out the other end is mostly just fur. But what's interesting with them in particular is the urine end of it more so. Because when they pee, it actually, there's like a chalky, like almost like brick that comes out. With sort of like, it's almost like a gel is sort of what the urine kind of looks like. And then if you just leave it in the tank for like a day, all of it hardens into just like this one little hunk of, like I said, it's kind of chalky when you actually feel it. And so it's actually very easy tank cleaning for them, because they don't go to the bathroom very much. When they do, because you leave it in there for a day and you can just pick it out and it's fine. And you asked, what did you ask, how old they are?
Yeah, how old is this?
So Rusty is, I think, 16 right now, which is adult, but not like old. Artemis is 15, she's a year younger than Rusty. Jeannie, we don't know exactly because she's had a few owners before us and doesn't have great documentation going back very far. But we're guessing she's at least in her late 20s. Sophie, the corn snake, is 5. And then the Hognose Snake, Sally, is another one that we really don't know the age of. But that one's old, the Hognose. But we don't know exactly how old.
The snake back there?
Artemis?
Yeah.
So she's another boa.
Oh, okay.
So Artemis and Rusty are the same species.
This is just the male.
Yeah.
Oh.
Rusty's male, Artemis is female.
That's a big
They're pretty
difference.
close to the same age. Like I said, he's actually a year older than Artemis is. They're even pretty close to the same length. They're both between 8 and 9 feet long. But Artemis probably outweighs Rusty about 3 to 1, which is normal. Like, they're both pretty average size for their age and sex. Yeah, Rusty's 10-ish to 12-ish pounds, and Artemis floats around 35-ish. What was that? None of the ones we have here currently have ever escaped. We have had snakes get out in the past. It has happened, but it's been not since I've been here. Let's put it this way. The only reptile we've had get out of its tank since I've been here is one of the legless lizards got out of like its temporary tank. It was right when we got it, and so we had it in a little kind of quarantine tank, and it got out of its quarantine tank and was out on the loose for a couple hours before we found it and got it back in. Our most recent runaway, though, actually, the zebra finch got out yesterday. Was flying around the side center.
I know some animals are escape artists,
Yeah.
some not so much.
Yeah. All right. So, Rusty's going to be working on this for a while, but for our online audience,
That's going to be it for our 3:30 live show. Thanks for